Now that was a Buffalo Bills press conference. I am your host, Devin Long, and welcome to the 15th episode of the Down South Bills podcast. Today I'll be reacting to the introductory press conference for new head coach Joe Brady, as well as talking about a few speaking points that Brandon Beane had, as well as Josh Allen. And with that being said, let's get right into it. So, big picture reaction. I came into today curious, but I left today genuinely optimistic. Not blind optimism, and not everything is fixed. But I have true belief in the direction of this franchise. For the first time since we lost, to the Broncos, I have true faith in the clear vision, the alignment, as they said a ton of times, and the fresh energy of this franchise. Beane said that he wanted a CEO style head coach, and today he let us know what he meant about that CEO style head coach. Not someone who's just calling the plays, handling one side of the ball, but someone who's an organizer, a culture setter, a delegator, an emphasis on communication, and as I mentioned before, and they said a ton of times, alignment and unified messaging. And I was also excited to hear Brandon Beane talk about what he heard from Joe Brady as far as his defensive philosophy and what he wants to do there and what type of defensive coordinator he brings in. He says he wants a defense that attacks and dictates and disguises pre-snap and changes the picture post-snap. Not a passive defense, not a bend but don't break defense, and not a defense that sits back. And to me, this seems like a direct shot at Sean McDermott. I don't know why Brandon Beane, Terry Pagula continue to throw shots at Sean McDermott, but hey, I'm all for an attacking defense. I'm all for the Jim Leonard type of guys, Jim Swartz type of guys, Raheem Morris. I'm all for that. It's gonna, as I'm gonna get into a little bit later, it's gonna take a little bit of personnel change, but hey, I'm all for it. It excites me. I hope it excites you as well. And so the type of defense that we're talking about here is a philosophical shift from the McDermott area. It's more aggression, more chaos, and it ties to the modern trends of like the Broncos and how they had all of those sacks this year. So, we'll see who we go with as far as defensive coordinator, but I'm really excited about changing up the defensive scheme and hopefully getting some new players in here to fit that scheme. Do love some of the players we currently have. Don't get me wrong. Maxwell Harrison, Christian Benford, Cole Bishop, Ed Oliver, Greg Russo, just to name a few. Love those guys. But we're gonna need some superstars, some difference makers in here to get some pressure on the quarterback and also stop the run better than we have in the past. And Brady's personal connection to Buffalo. He loves Buffalo. His kids were born here. It didn't feel like coach speak for me. A lot of his press conference. I know some of it was, you can kind of differentiate when a guy's not giving you the full answer. But I really feel like the way he was getting emotional, I don't think he wanted to get emotional in front of all of us. I don't think that was something that was, something that was rehearsed. I think he genuinely loves Buffalo, loves his players, and wants to get us to where we want to go, which is ultimately bringing a Lombardi back to Orchard Park. And I think all of this matters because of buy-in, long-term mindset, and not treating the job just as a stepping stone. I think he's really invested in this program, and I think he wants to be a legend, but also be a legend in Buffalo. You have to remember, Joe Brady's had opportunities to move on. He interviewed twice for the Ravens head coaching job. He interviewed twice for the Raiders head coaching job, and he was one of the front runners to be the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator. So I think this is a really good move for us as far as Joe Brady becoming the head coach. We won't really know. A good move is a stretch. I think it's a good move because of the things that I laid out, the continuity, him knowing Josh Allen, him being an up and coming offensive mind. But we won't really know how good of a move it is until down the line we see if we win a Super Bowl. But I'd say right now, in my mind, in terms of the connection, the things that he knows, how he can grow as a person and how he can grow as a coach, I think it's a good move. Staff building approach. Joe Brady said he's not rushing. He wants to find the right people and not just his friends, which I love that answer so much. I don't know how true it is because he also said he doesn't want yes men. But when I say I don't know if it's true about his friends, because Pat Meyer was with him in Carolina, and he's a well-respected offensive lines coach, a good offensive line coach coming from the Steelers. But he is going to be our offensive line coach, and he does have a relationship with Joe Brady. I don't know if they're friends. Maybe they're not necessarily friends. Maybe he's just someone he knows is well respected and is trying to get some good guys in here. And I think that's going to be a good thing because Pat Mayer, he matters because he has a proven run game teacher, physical identity, and fits the bully ball philosophy that we've kind of had this past year. I think we should definitely get into the pass a little bit more with some down the field weapons, but I do think bringing in a respected offensive line coach is going to be a good thing for us here. And that's just an encouraging sign for me as far as him hiring. It's process over speed. These coordinator jobs, they're going to get filled really quickly around the league, but I think it's better for him, especially as a first time head coach, to find the right guys that's going to be there for a while, or at least be there and really keep the culture going in a positive way. And so I think that's more important than, hey, let's have all these guys signed by tomorrow. And then he also showed respect to Sean McDermott, which was really something that I was glad to see. Especially after people like Terry Pagula and even Brandon Beane to a certain extent kind of threw Sean McDermott under the bus. And he was just classy about Sean McDermott, said how much he learned from him. And just, I think this is important for the transition and the player trust, and also the culture continuity. So, and then Josh Allen update. So after Joe Brady spoke, after Brandon Beane spoke, Josh Allen spoke. He came out on crutches, but he said that if there was a game Sunday, he'd play. And knowing Josh Allen, you believe him. He said it'll be fine for OTAs, and also said that he believes in the organization, the vision, and ultimately the goal to get a Lombardi. He also said that he believes in Joe Brady, and that he knows Joe Brady is going to coach him hard, and that he really wants that. And I also saw the player support in the building watching the press conference. Josh Allen was there, Spencer Brown was there, Maxwell Harrison was there, and other players were there that I didn't necessarily see, but I could hear from the way that the reporters were talking that there were more players around. So it was good to see that, and that kind of sends the message that the locker room, for the most part, is behind this. They're not fractured, and they're not shaked out. And if the stars buy in, the foundation exists. I did see Daquan Jones or something on X saying that he's a free agent, and kind of saying that Vrabel's that guy and all these things. But Daquan Jones is a veteran. I think he might maybe be retiring. I mean, he's on the older side. He's a good quality player for us, but I mean, he's not a superstar. I mean, I don't really, like, he's I guess he's kind of trying to trash the organization or be mad that Sean McDermott is gone. But I'm a person who lives in the present, and I mean, if it were Josh Allen doing something like this, I'd feel away. But no disrespect to Daquan Jones, I think he's a great player, but just don't necessarily like how he handled that situation. Um, Brady's personality, energy, I think he's definitely gonna bring the energy. He said that he curses a lot. He's authentic. He's himself, and I like that he's himself. Some people try to act differently, or may have thought that he would act differently. I do see that he's a little bit more open about the things that he says and things that he does already as a head coach. As far as cursing on Pat McAfee and all of that, because some coaches, maybe him becoming a head coach, he's kind of like, I gotta be in this little shell and I gotta do what's right. And he's like, no, I'm just gonna be myself. I'm gonna coach. I'm not gonna try to coach like anybody. And I think that's a really good thing. And as I mentioned earlier, bringing that new style of defense, I think that's gonna be huge for the Bills. Because the Bills defense, let's be honest, it's been predictable. I mean, we've been good in past situations. We've been a team that's basically built the defense only to be good against the Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And even when we play them, we give up 30. So, I'm just excited to watch a new scheme, see new personnel, and track the identity that's forming on the defense, whoever the defensive coordinator is. And I know that roster turnover is coming. That's another thing that I got from the press conference. The roster is, I know they said that you kind of have some players to fit certain schemes that you want to run, and I think that part is coach speak. I think if you have to change to an odd front on defense, you're gonna keep your good corners. You're gonna keep Benford and Maxwell. You're gonna keep Cole Bishop. You're gonna get another safety. You're gonna get different linebackers. You're probably gonna get a different defensive line. You're obviously gonna keep Ed and Greg Rousseau. But outside of that, and the young guys like Deion Walker, T.J. Sanders, I think you're gonna mix it up. And you're gonna have some new guys in here, whether that's free agency, whether that's trades, and whether that's the draft. You're gonna have some new players in a lot of different positions, especially wide receiver, linebacker, safety, and defensive line. Um, but yeah, why fans should be optimistic and allow optimism. I've seen a lot of Bills fans feel in a lot of different ways, but I'm just saying, we love this team. Don't switch up on this team. Don't go find another team. Be like, bandwagon Kansas City Chiefs fans, just going after who's winning. No, stay. I know, I know I don't necessarily have to say that to Buffalo Bills fans, but love this team, admire this team because one day, like we all say, we're gonna get what we want. We're gonna get that Lombardi, and I think we're gonna get it with Josh Allen, and I think we're gonna get it with Joe Brady, and that's the way that we should feel. We should feel optimistic as fans, especially having a guy like Josh Allen and having a guy like Joe Brady who's seen success, who's built his way up through the ranks. And I mean, if he wasn't somebody who's coaching the Buffalo Bills, he'd probably be, if he was of the Sean McVay tree, if he was of any of these elite trees, Kyle Shanahan, he'd be the hottest coach on the market. I mean, he had the MVP 2 years ago. He had the rushing leader this year. He's had a good offensive line. Like I don't come on now. So I'm optimistic about Joe Brady, as I think we all should be. But we shouldn't necessarily say this is gonna guarantee the Super Bowl, or this is gonna do this, or this is gonna do that. But I'm just saying we should be optimistic as fans. We should do our research, and we should just stay informed. And we're Buffalo Bills fans. We've been through it, but we have hope, and we're gonna ultimately get where we want to go. We're gonna excuse me there. We're gonna get where we want to go, and we're gonna ultimately get that Lombardi. And I truly believe that, and I truly believe in this organization to, as we say, get one before I die. And for my closing thought here, I just want to say today felt like a true reset. It's not just a name change. I know people say he was in the building when we lost, so like how this is a complete change. You could see it from his press conference today. He has a different personality than McDermott. This is a new voice. This is a new philosophy change. And now the real work starts. The staff, the free agency, and the draft. But for the first time in a bit, I guess a few weeks, I feel good about where all of this is headed. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy my content. And once again, go Bills.